enhance their concentration in class and improve performance. As I conclude, dear candidates, this moment may come with joy, it may come with relief, it may also come with disappointment, but use the results to work harder for your future. And there is still room to repeat, to improve on your grades for those who did not perform well. Permit me, Mama, to appreciate all stakeholders who have contributed towards quality education, because education is a shared responsibility, as you have always stated. Mama, on behalf of Ministry of Education and Sports Fraternity, we commit and we pledge to build not just strong schools, but to build strong values, to build strong character and quality education for our country. Once again, I thank you, and I say all this for God and my country. Long live Mama Janet Museveni, long live our president, and long live Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It's now my single honor and pleasure. The country is waiting for the statement from the Minister of Education and Sports, and to officially release PLE results 2025. Mama, it's now my pleasure to invite you to come and address the nation. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and rise to welcome Mama as she comes to address the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kaduchu, and please sit down. Honorable Ministers of State in the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Chairperson and members of the Education and Sports Committee of Parliament, the Chairperson of Education Service Commission, the Permanent Secretary and your team, the UNEB family present here today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all, and happy and blessed New Year. Now let me begin by thanking God, as always. Let's thank God and praise Him for the gift of life and for a new year, 2026, and for having taken us through an election season in peace, with a victory at the end of it all. Today, we are releasing the results of the 2025 primary leaving examination, the first in the schedule of results of examinations that UNEB is by law mandated to administer. Most of the candidates are the products of the universal primary education, as you all know, a program put in place by the NRM government 30 years ago. Since the inception of UPE, hundreds of thousands of our children who would otherwise have not had education due to challenges of school fees have been able to complete primary school cycle. With the renewal of the mandate now of the NRM government by the people of Uganda, UPE shall continue to play its role in expanding access to basic education for all. The commitment is to have all children attend primary education for free. That's the commitment government is going to have to make sure it really happens. That is, without paying any school fees. Because completely free UPE is both an opportunity and a platform for all children in our homeland to receive foundational learning that primary education is supposed to give. So I take this opportunity to thank the people of Uganda for the overwhelming vote of confidence in the NRM government to guide our homeland on the steady path of socio-economic transformation and a qualitative leap into high middle class status that we're looking forward to. Now, as we celebrate PLE, we must also observe a moment of silence in honor of Honorable Geraldine Bitamazire, the former Minister of Education and UPE. If it's okay with you, please stand up and let's remember Geraldine Bitamazire. May God rest her soul in eternal peace. Please sit down. I now applaud the increase in numbers of children, as you've just heard from Mr. Dong. The children completing the primary education cycle and the fact that dropout rate is reducing. This is an indication that more children who started primary 1 in the 2025 primary 7 cohort remain in school to the end of the cycle. As I have stated previously, while I'm certainly happy with the numbers of girls completing the primary education cycle, I become concerned about the fact that the proportion of the boys completing this cycle has been decreasing. Is this purely a demographic matter, or are more boys and girls indeed dropping out of school? Either way, it is important that we establish an evidence-based explanation for this trend. As you heard Mr. Dong say, talking about the inmates taking examinations, that most criminals are men. I don't know whether any parent wants to take that news as news for our country or good news at all. We want all our children to have all the blessings that we want our education to provide, or our government to strive to give to all our children. I am pleased, though, that our children with various forms of special education needs have been in school and were able to sit for PLE. As can be seen from the statistics that UNEB has provided, when the right environment is provided, these children perform as well as those without disabilities. Therefore, this shows that the government's policy on inclusivity and equitable education is bearing good fruit. We must also continue to applaud Uganda Prison Service for providing the inmates an opportunity to further their education as they serve their sentences. I firmly believe, as I'm sure others do, that giving this opportunity is an impactful way of rehabilitating the inmates. The education they acquire should enable them to integrate back into society easily and more profitably and reform into better citizens. The results indicate that more learners passed in Division 1 compared with the 2024 PLE cycle. This is a good development, a very good development. Although the overall proportion of learners that passed slightly declined when compared with the previous PLE results of 2024, what is of essence is that in absolute numbers, more children passed their PLE in 2025. As a government, our investments in establishing additional seed secondary schools in recent years has created room to absorb more learners that are transitioning from primary education to O-level. Since 2019, we had a target of building 259 new seed secondary schools through the U-Gift program, as I'm sure the ministry will remember. As of today, we have so far completed the construction and operationalized 204 new secondary schools, whereas 55 are still in various levels of construction progress. In addition, you are all aware that in 2025, with the enactment of the TVET Act 2025, the technical vocational education system regulated by the TVET Council was legally established in Uganda to exist alongside the general education system. So this technical vocational education system is also a pathway that learners who complete primary 7 can pursue. The government has 42 community polytechnics in addition to about 100 privately owned community polytechnics that can also absorb learners from primary 7. The study duration in community polytechnics is 3 years, upon which the successful trainee is awarded a community polytechnic certificate that is equivalent to completion of O-level. Therefore, I'd like to remind learners who may not transition to either O-level or the vocational education path to take heart and repeat primary 7 so that you get an end of primary education cycle certificate as evidence of attainment of basic competencies. I note that UNEB, just like it was done for the 2024 PLE results, has looked at whether learners had attained mastery of knowledge and skills in the subjects they studied. More detailed analysis has been done on achievements at the various grade levels as well. This is appreciated because we can then understand better the meaning of the grades that our learners attain. From the Executive Director's report, the examination emphasized the competence-based learning approach that the country has adopted, and the questions tested knowledge, understanding, and application of the knowledge to solve problems in the community. This is the direction we are heading, to ensure that the learners at this level are equipped to cope with the requirements of the competence-based curriculum at UCE. It is essential for our teachers, therefore, to adjust their teaching methods to the new realities. The Ministry of Education is implementing various interventions to ensure quality capacity building of our teachers. This is very important for our ministry, but also for the country as a whole. These interventions are part of the National Teacher Policy 2019, whose standards are being implemented through in-service or pre-service training opportunities. I am happy to hear from the board chairperson that for the last 2 years, UNEB has conducted training for teachers from 2 districts selected from those with the lowest levels of achievements. The training can, however, be expanded to all lower performing districts to improve performance countrywide, as shall be done under the ULearn project with the support of the Global Partnership for Education beginning soon. Furthermore, the Ministry of Education and Sports has embarked on reviewing the primary school curriculum to ensure alignment with the revised lower secondary curriculum. This will also be an opportunity for a review of the way learning in primary education is monitored and assessed. I applaud the contributions of the chief administrative officers, the education officials represented here today by some executive committee members of the Inspectors Forum in ensuring the smooth conduct of the 2025 UNEB examination. I am glad that you, the representatives, have been invited to this function. I want you to convey my gratitude to your colleagues for the good work you are doing to uphold the standards of education in your respective local governments. However, I also want you to convey my displeasure at some unprofessional practices in the administration of examinations and within the teaching profession. According to UNEB, such practices take place leading to examination malpractice, the common forms of examination malpractice being: 1, posting specific invigilators to examination centers as demanded by school directors; 2, posting invigilators to the very same schools where they are teaching; and 3, posting fewer than required numbers of invigilators to an examination center, thus having some examination rooms not being supervised. Among the suspects remanded by the courts that we heard about today is a district inspector of schools. Isn't that unbelievable? UNEB has reported that some education officials have facilitated the registration of private candidates as UPE candidates, thereby defrauding government. This is completely unacceptable. Relatedly, there is the mushrooming of private examinations bureaus that have continued to distort the purpose of learning. Learning is not about passing exams only. It is demonstrating acquisition of desired competencies. So, the argument that examinations bureaus can continue with their ways because the government liberalized the economy really does not hold any water. Therefore, I have asked the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education and Sports to diagnose where the loopholes could be in the practice of examinations bureaus. These loopholes must be closed by either enforcing the existing legal and regulatory frameworks or formulating new frameworks where none exists. I wish to now emphasize that management of PLE is a shared responsibility between UNEB and the local governments. I therefore encourage local governments to always plan and budget for the administration of UNEB examinations within local government. Some local governments have not been budgeting at all for this activity and only relying on the contribution from UNEB. However, I greatly appreciate the critical roles played by the joint security forces and other stakeholders in ensuring that the government delivers quality end-of-cycle examinations. Thank you once again to UNEB. And I want all of you to join me to thank UNEB once again for presiding over the successful 2025 PLE examination season. And allow me also to thank the parents and guardians that supported all our children whose results are being released today. Thank you. Thank you for all the sacrifices and efforts you make for the education and well-being of these children. My gratitude also goes to the teachers and staff in all our schools who do a great job in the learning experience of these young people. Well done. And before I conclude, I also want us as a country to speak out and be vigilant against teacher absenteeism. To speak out and be vigilant against teacher absenteeism is a duty for all of us in schools. Why should a teacher who's earning a monthly paycheck be absent for a whole month and no single parent in that school is making any noise or alarm about this? Teachers who continue to receive monthly paychecks from the taxpayers' money but are absent from duty must be asked to choose whether they want to remain in the public teaching service at all or altogether exit and use their skills elsewhere. Therefore, I'm tasking the Directorate of Education and Standards to make use of the technology that the government has heavily invested in to monitor teacher presence and teaching in the classrooms. When releasing the next set of PLE results, we must get answers as to why we have many ungradable candidates in a school or schools in each local government, where such a school has a head teacher, teachers, an inspector of schools, and a district education officer on the government payroll. So we need to not stop at lamenting about unsatisfactory academic performance of our learners, but put to task those who are at the front line to explain why the results are the way they are. As I conclude now, I'd like to inform the public and the school managers that the selection exercise for Senior 1 will take place on the 12th and 13th of February 2026. The Ministry of Education and Sports will communicate further details regarding this exercise. The first term for the Senior 1 cohort of 2026 starts on Monday, the 2nd March 2026. Finally, as I said in my statement during the release of the 2024 UCE results, UNEB was informed by the Personal Data Protection Unit or Office that publicly disclosing the names, photographs, and individual grades of learners on boards or other publicly accessible platforms, such as media platforms, exposes learners to harassment, stigma, and emotional distress. This, therefore, is to remind all media houses, media practitioners, school managers, and UNEB that the Data Protection and Privacy Act, CAP 97, prohibits the publication of personal data of children. Accordingly, schools and media houses, as well as individual journalists, are advised to use alternative methods of sharing examination outcomes without compromising individual learners' privacy by way of disclosing personal learner information or data. With those words, it is now my singular honor to release the 2025 Primary Living Examination results for public use, and I thank you all for listening to me. Here. Thank you, and God bless you.
Remain standing for the anthems. PA, support me in reverse order, 2 stanzas each.